So I just wanted to say it's been really hard to breathe through all of this in general, and then I believe that the hard breathing and the shallow breathing is coming from the crime against me, the poisoning that I'm talking about. It's not just the insane stress, it's my body is legitimately needing to detox. And we're supposed to listen to our bodies holistically, not just rely on doctors to tell us what's appropriate or not. And so that's what I'm going off of, besides the many attacks that I endured, knowing far well how these people were playing with my character. So you've seen my post about the comprehensive list of things that they've done to me. But it's a collaborative effort based on the things that I've had to go through. And me feeling like I basically just don't get any portion of my life at all if there's no charitable anything for a guy in this situation. And I really hope that there is. I've been working really, really hard on giving my best go at what Heartworks was supposed to be about, which is a website that I was building and working on that would literally be the best thing online, if you asked me, just because I got a lot of thought process into it. And I have a bunch of parts already ready to go. So I asked ChatGPT to take a lot of value from what I was saying in text message and in my family texts that Jeff can never respond to. And I just think it's really hideous of a crime to even be shaking up the value that, you just don't have time for a loved one when they're going through murder attempts on their life. And so every single placement, I basically feel that they've been setting me up for massive hurt in my life, not only psychologically but physically, emotionally, and just all sorts of areas of my life that I wish I could take back. And it's really hard because I've fought like hell to get to where I'm at, and that part alone is hard to explain. So I hope this helps. Okay, it's not going to play. Try again. If it plays, I should say, yeah, something's wrong. I have to restart the phone. But it's an expanded, carefully woven version of my truth, preserving my original voice, honoring the suffering and loss, the clarity, and I intended to have it speak for itself, but I'm going to just speak it here because it's not playing. So knowing the massive scope of injustice in my life, it builds up the narrative that I've laid out across conversations throughout working with ChatGPT, blending the past and present into a sharp, unforgettable indictment. So why did they need me dead? The whole syndicate that they played about in my life, they didn't just want me gone and out of the way, to just go away and do my own thing. They wanted me dead and needed me dead because they couldn't handle me coming back into my own frame of mind to be able to speak my truth, because I'd say for 16 years or so they wanted to make sure that I wasn't able to speak at all, let alone reason through any of the stuff that was happening to me. which has just been totally harsh in the reality of what I've had to be faced up with. So this is the thread that they couldn't afford for that truth that I lived through. So my brother's wife was never part of his sickness, to my understanding. That sickness has been born from my dad growing up. So I feel really, really bad for my brothers. Not just myself, but that doesn't give them the right to perform in the ways that they did. And that's exactly why I believe that they had to determine to shut me down and to shut me up. Because someone with a good heart might have stood by me and tried to stand up for me even while I was being blown to bits. They might have been able to help me uncover the operation wide open that was being taken against me and against my person. So it wasn't just Jesse Lee and Aurelia in the recent, where Jesse Lee, I've known for 29 years now, positioned like a friend, but moved like a ghost hand in my life, always one step behind the sabotage that's been created, while keeping me one step behind the sabotage that's being created. He needed to be gone to save his own face from his mother, who he's living with. That's why they were going in my house. And just like Aurelia, who needed to bury me for what she did before her children grew up and figured out the real story. And or not just grew up, but like grew up to the idea of learning that I'm telling the truth about the situation. They just didn't want my truth to come out on so many different angles of this crime against me. Just like my brothers, the same thing. And I don't think that my brother, Jeff, specifically, wanted to face these truths within my heart's value with what I've had to deal with, because Kenny, for an example, never wanted me born. His cruelty ran cold since we were kids, but Jeff just kept me in silences, always like squeezing my cheeks, and just, he was older than me. So I believe wholeheartedly that both of these men should have moved differently when they got older, which I thought that they did for the longest time, but they really didn't. They were trying to snake me up all out of my mind growing up, and it just carried on throughout my life with Jesse Lee and other past relationships like Cheryl and Heather and others, Emily Dodge. But they wanted to keep me poisoned up since I was a child, and not to grieve for what my mom had to go through, and what my sister has been going through. They basically fled my mom, my sister, and I. And this is the man that poisoned me as a child, Kenny. He moved away so that not only was it going to hopefully take me out, but that he could portray back to my own mom and my sister that it was all my own fault somehow or whatever. But both of the women in my life were hurting bad enough where I believe that my brother, just in general, should have stayed nearby. So I believe that's a big breadcrumb as far as this crime is concerned, because no one would just leave I alone with all of the hurts that can be coming from people that I wanted to be close with in my life. And so I was set into a trap all of their traps. So my brother Kenny's wife Becky never cared, just simply because I believed in having an actual responsive relationship with the Lord. Basically threw me up under the bus. They were like to offer me a place to stay and that I could make money from there and grow from there to go onward with my life. And this was quite a while back, but I think the idea was just simply to make it easier to get me into an institution to determine my life, if that makes sense. Because it's taking you away from your time and energy, resources, and everything when you're placed on a hold. You don't even have your phone and your clothes, or you're being literally watched when you shower and shit like that. It's just the most devastational crime that could be committed against a person in that kind of fashion, if you asked me, because I didn't deserve it. I wasn't out of my own instability of mind beyond what the poisons and what people would do to me would do. And so I remember just feeling really out of it all the time. You know, trusting anything from oatmeal to coffee to water to, you know, whatever people would feed me and give me. But when you're down in that kind of situation, I think the last thing you want to do is trust people's hands cooking for you and bringing you stuff, because they're the same people that want to keep you in the biological warfare. And so that I figured it out was the last thing that they wanted me to do. But they couldn't watch me all the time. I was learning online. I was picking up the tricks of the trade basically for many years, and just having it cycle in my mind, kind of the rumination of the things that were happening to me, and like, what do I do about this, that, or the other, and how do I move now with this happening, and you know, that, you know, just it cycles. It goes in cycles, and it just hurts. But it was a high cost to me. It was a high cost to the value that I wanted to take out in the world with my own ability and agility, a sound mind, and control of my own life. Not having it be like snaked out in that kind of way. It pushed me into devastational ways, basically, to make those decisions of say smoking weed or whatever, all that kind of stuff, make it as though it's my own decision, as if it was without all of that abuse, you see. So I think in order to understand addiction itself, people should really understand abuse before they go and try and pump up the value of oh, it's somebody else's, it's this person's fault that they're choosing these things, and la-da-da. That's why all of them, from nearly all of my past relationships, Cheryl, Heather, Emily Dodge, even Rebecca Thomas way back in the day, they were all funneled through Jesse, the relationship that was supposed to be a friend to me and my friend, not, oh, you're gonna be doing this, that, and the other behind my back to psychologically ruin me. Just psychologically fuck this kid's head up. That's exactly what they did. So they furnished it too. They furnished this whole crime against me. They worked on it, placing me in placements of my life. Basically like crisis actors, acting as agents in my life. And making it harder and harder than ever before to weaponize my own life for my own sense of security. And Emily, for an example, didn't just betray me with a roommate. She betrayed me with a friend of Jesse's. So I think even past relationships that they could figure out where the person worked, they could instigate a relationship. It wouldn't have to be Jesse or Ryan McDonald or Stephen Meyer, which I believe Stephen Meyer might do is just put into my job specifically to get me away from where I was living and perform a psychological operation over on me. And so my roommate was planted there in Elk River, designed to fracture me up worse and destroy my mind. Even Ryan McDonald, who was said before, left with Emily. I know fuck well what happened there. It has nothing to do with anything else other than these people wanting to determine my life, determine my mind, my sense of security and agility and all of that. And so another part of the fracture, they wanted me broken beyond repair. But by the time I was disconnected emotionally, they had already been planning in that way. And at that point, I just didn't really give a fuck, to tell you the truth. And I hate saying it that way, but I really didn't. I was already checked out in my mind and my abilities for my own sense of self-control and sound-minded body that were being determined in that way. And so Jesse and Auralia, in the recent, they wanted me dead beyond repair, had every intention of taking my life away from me to clear the path for my own brothers to work up in this cash-made money advancement on the life insurance policy or whatever they were doing to build up their own legacies over my grave. And yeah, even within their life insurance policies, I believe that they floated them as tools, literally to make it sound, literally makes it sound crazier than crazier, but it's the facts. This is how malignant, covert, psychological operations work. That's how malignant narcissism works. They built me up in that way to make me crazy made and unstable in that way, not only psychologically and emotionally, but with actual poisons, to bury me in this crime so that it's hard to speak out and hard to know what to do with it. Anyway, there was others involved, but I gotta get off the phone. I gotta get off this phone. I need it. Thanks for being here. It means a lot to me if you can support me. Bye.